Alright, sick. Now let's see if we can get this working. Supposedly, yes. Alright, we should be live on both Twitch and YouTube. We're just gonna get everything set up first. Okay, we've got to monitor that. I think my Twitch stream is all fucked up, but we can continue monitoring that as we go. Today we're going to be drawing coyotes with the same sort of lesson-based stuff. I'm also going to go live on TikTok and see how we can do with this. It'll probably be a short stream, just like 30 minutes, nothing crazy. Oh, weird. My Twitch stream is fucked. Alright, well, maybe we just stop that one and we rip on YouTube and TikTok, which is totally fine. Sick. Alright, so, what's up, Skeptically Dan? Today we're going to be drawing coyotes, and I'm going to be working through sort of all the steps that I take to get sort of a finished drawing. I think I'll probably run through, I don't know, a couple quick sketches, nothing crazy, but essentially with any sort of drawing, I've been doing this for the past couple streams, is I'll take a reference image or whatever imagination I can come up with, and I break it down into the simplest shapes, and then I move through all of the detail that I need from there. Like, that's my sort of jumping off point. And it's going pretty well so far. We've drawn, I'll show you a couple of them. What's up, Twin Tricks? We drew this owl the other day, and then we drew this bobcat the day before that, and then now we're going to be drawing coyotes. So, with that same sort of lesson in mind that we just showed with the big wildcat, we're going to be doing coyotes. And I can't get my camera to focus, which is annoying as hell. But whatever. I wonder if I can. God damn it. What's up, Mike Riggs? Is the video all blurry for you? I can't get it to focus for some reason, which is crazy. There we go. Sick. Mike, weren't you asking for a certain specific drawing the other day? Because if not, we're going to move forward with the coyote drawing. But if you had something in mind that you really want to see, I could draw that too while we're just starting. Today we're going to be doing coyotes, which is sort of crazy. They're all over LA for sure, and Minnesota as well, but we're just going to rip through a couple of quick ones. I think I'll probably be live for like 30-ish minutes or so, but nothing crazy. With this coyote drawing, so essentially I'm starting with just a circle for the head, and then we're probably going to be adding in a little bit of cheek action because coyotes are very angular in their head shape. And I'm just starting with super simple shapes everywhere, and then I can go in and focus on detail afterwards. Like, I kind of want to do all of the detail stuff at the very end. Oh, thanks for liking the live. But essentially, the fun part and the magic of drawing, like how you get drawings that look like this or drawings that look polished, is all starting with sort of. Check out Lauren Bett's basketball career score and rebounds. Oh yeah, true. Basically what we're trying to do is draw very realistic objects and characters and everything, but by starting at like the very base level. Mike Riggs, I can do that for you. I can even draw her at the end. But so for this coyote, I'm just starting with this sort of rectangular prism for the nose, And I'm just like blocking out all of this sort of structure that I need to make this work. So we're just focusing on getting the snout down as correctly as possible. And it's all going to look sort of like structure, like a house has framing. We're just putting all of these sort of scaffolding bits into this drawing first, and then we can sort of start focusing on details afterwards. But like for now, I'm just focusing on all of like the little polygons, like throwing in maybe the eye is going to go here. Usually the eyes are at about the midline for every animal, but some of them switch and change around a little bit. So I'm really just focusing on small details first, and then we can move into all of the finalizing detail later. And like already with all of the structure that I'm putting together, I already sort of hate where I put the eyes first. So I'm just going to erase before we even start putting down some serious lines, and it's no problem. Like you can't even tell that there was a mistake there in the beginning. So with this, all we've started with is one big circle, a big like triangle / rectangle for the snout, and then a couple of triangles and rectangles for the ears. And we're just going to start sort of blocking in and making sure all of our shapes feel organic and accurate. One thing that I've always struggled with, especially with dogs, is the snouts and how they come across the face. And something that I've found that really helps is starting with this sort of like rectangular prism idea of, okay, I know that the snout is sticking away from the face, and I know it's going to be encompassed by this rectangle that I'm drawing right here. So it's like nothing that I should draw should be outside of those boundaries that I just set, right? So with that, when I'm drawing this jawline and the nose and the snout and the lips and everything, I know that there's at least like this boundary that I have to abide by the whole time. And on top of that, like noses and snouts are 3D, so they're going to have that sort of perspective switch in there. So having that box around everything really sets you up for success, because it's like it gets your brain into the mode of thinking that this is closer to the viewer and farther away, like as the snout goes on, you know what I mean? So with this big box, we can way easier or super easily figure out exactly the shape that we need for the snout to be. And already as I'm putting in this sort of first lip and this bottom jaw portion, like it looks realistic already, and all I've done is essentially put in this weird gray blob for the nose, and then just like some indicator lines for the whole muzzle. So we're just going to keep all of these lines as light as possible, because again, like all of this stuff is, I'm ready to erase it at any point. I'm not focusing on getting a final drawing anytime until like the very end. Like we're just doing as much setup as possible and as much just sort of structure and framing before we even think about actually drawing this coyote. And that's been really helping me a ton, because I've always struggled drawing with animals or drawing animals. So all of this sort of setup and structure sets me up for a crazy amount of success, and that is shown through this drawing that I ripped the other day. And this was all like the same exact setup and everything as this coyote that we're doing. We just started with this huge oval, a big like rectangle prism for the snout, a couple rectangles and triangles for the ears. And then like as we went through, we were slowly layering in more and more detail to this drawing. So the same thing with the owl that we drew. This one was a little bit more cartoony, but still like all the same rules apply. And I'm hoping that we can get through this coyote drawing with the same amount of polish, and sort of the same amount of finesse as those other ones. But the only way that we can do that is by, following this form and this structure and this setting of doing everything very slowly and lightly, and then, capitalizing at the very end. Thanks for all the viewers on TikTok. That's awesome. It's fun to have you guys here. Please, if anything is confusing or strange, like pop it in the chat. I'm fine answering questions. But we're just gonna be ripping through this drawing for, I don't know, like 30-ish minutes, and then I gotta help out Mike Riggs with a drawing of his, and then we'll just keep trucking. But with this muzzle, I'm feeling pretty comfortable, pretty confident with it so far. I'm just going to add in some slight lines just to help me understand exactly where I'm drawing and what I'm drawing. And then I'm going to start adding in some sort of idea of where I want the eyes to be. So I'm going to throw in just 2 ovals here. And then this is like a really important step as you're drawing, is to take a step back from your drawing whenever you have all of the structure and all of the setup. Because the power of doing any sort of drawing this way is you get to see proportions, and you get to see, like, you know, is this muzzle too long? Are these eyes too close together? Are they too small, too big? Like, all of these things at a very early stage in your drawing. And if they are wrong, or if you're not happy with them, you can just erase them and reset them as you're doing it, instead of rushing to that final part of the drawing and adding in all this detail, and then you take the step back and you realize that it's wrong. Like, doing it this way saves so much heartache, which is sweet. And it's also like, it's helped me so much get really almost professional looking drawings going and off the ground, instead of a lot of times when I was learning how to draw in the beginning, I would draw something and then immediately get frustrated because it wasn't looking good, and then I would just like scrap the drawing and go do something else. But with this, it really mitigates that the like possibility of failure in that way, which is sweet. So we're just slowly adding in. This drawing doesn't have to be super professional, because again, we're just like learning and trying to figure out all these tactics of how to make this drawing look as good as possible. So it's okay if it's a little bit rough or a little bit wonky in some spots, but we're going to add in just a little idea of his body and hunchback in here. And that's just going to make the drawing feel more full and whatever, and give us more frames of reference. I think the more sort of spots that you can stop and see and have a little point of reference, the better, because it's like everything on the page is giving me information as I'm doing it, which is really sweet, because like it talks to you. The drawing will tell you if it looks off or if it's wrong in some spots. So it's like, as I'm doing all this setup and all of the sort of groundwork to get this drawing looking normal and accurate, it's also showing me all of like the pitfalls that are about to happen, which is really fun. And also like makes drawing a much more enjoyable experience too, because it's not so frustrating. It's not just like instantly like, I need to have this perfect drawing right now, and if I don't, like, this whole drawing session really sucks. This is like, the whole process is the fun part, and then you get a sweet payoff at the end. So we're gonna add some sort of nostril to this guy. We'll just pop in 2 little pea pods of, and again, like, I'm not going super dark on any of these colors, just because at any point they could all be erased. And as I'm looking at this dog, I'm thinking that the nose is a little bit off for some reason. I think maybe it's the perspective that it's at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase one of these lines, and I'm just going to restart. I might even bring up the nose completely. And again, like with all this setup that I'm doing, it's super easy to sort of go back to square one immediately, and then make our way back to exactly where we want to be. Whereas if I was just rushing this drawing really quick, like, I would have already failed, because I would have had to erase the entire nose if I spent so much time doing a bunch of detail on them, right? So we'll just throw in a little bit of an indication of nose there. And I think we're going to move on from that spot. Another fun part about, or another like really helpful tip with drawing is bounce around from like detail to detail. I think a lot of times I'll like zero in on an eyeball and I'll like really draw it out. And then by the end of it, I realize that like the whole drawing around the eyeball now looks like awful. So it's like you have to, if you bounce around with what like every detail that you're adding, you're slowly building the drawing up like at the same time, and everything sort of works together and it feels a lot more cohesive instead of just pile driving like one really sweet detailed spot and then you're left spinning trying to figure out how to get everything else to be that same level of detail. Um, so we're just gonna move through this jaw. Um, and coyotes are pretty straggly, so I'm gonna try and keep a lot of these outside lines a little bit rougher, um, just to like sort of give that texture feel, give that interesting look to this drawing, and then hopefully it pays off for us and pays some dividends back to us. But coyotes also have like cheeks to them, which is funny. They've also got like these really puffy cheeks, or like these puffy. I don't even know how to describe them, but the sides of their heads flay out like crazy. On top of their cheeks, like all their fur shoots out like Shiba Inus. So it's like sometimes as you're drawing coyotes, it feels really awkward to have all of this sort of balloony space around them. But like if you just keep trusting the process and running through the drawing, eventually it starts looking really realistic, which is sweet. Another fun part about drawing dogs or animals especially is the ears are so much different than humans. Like they're all just like big sonar cups, and you get to see like the back sides of the ears a lot when animals are looking at you. And it's just like the shape is so much more fun to draw than human ears, which are just like impossible sometimes to draw and like get the perspective right. So it's fun having animals' ears to play with. But we're gonna put around some sort of semblance of like a brow line. Another fun part about drawing animals is the more you understand their like skull shape, the better the drawing comes out to be. And that's just because like any drawing, like any skull, it's the bone structure beneath it, and then it's just all of like the flesh and the fur around it. So if you can sort of game out and figure out where eyebrows would be just based on skull, like right now I have this whole big circle is going to be like the eye cavity in the skull, and then that skull is going to come down, there's going to be like a cheekbone right here, and then it's going to go down into that front top jaw, right? So then we can use that to indicate like where is there going to be a sunken cheek, where is there going to be just lip and no jaw, where is like that top ridge going to be for this dog's jaw. And you can like slowly just sort of etch in all of those little points and all of that like shading, and you just all of a sudden get this very accurate looking dog just because you're only focused on, you know, that bone structure instead of anything super serious. Like I'm not drawing eyebrows on this guy necessarily, but I am leaving space for, you know, like if there were eyebrows on a dog. And some dogs like definitely do have eyebrows, which is also very funny, but for the intents and purposes of just like drawing, they've just got like bones, you know what I mean? So we're just throwing in a little bit of texture. Again, I'm not doing some crazy in-depth drawing today. I'm just sort of flying through. Chris Chaluto, hi Nathan, watch your videos. Thank you for your drawing tips. Of course, thanks for watching. We're just doing sort of a live demo and hanging out. Today I'm drawing coyotes, but thanks for stopping by. But back to all of the animal bits. On top of the bone structure and sort of letting that guide where you want to shade. Here, I'll even show you like this angle. Another really fun part about drawing animals is their fur like really sort of hides all your mistakes for you. As long as you can start like etching in all of the value that fur has, like you'll slowly get to the point of every every wrong spot of the drawing or every part of the drawing that you hate, it just gets like hidden by fur, and you can just add texture everywhere. You can add like whatever amount of detail you want to all of the fur, and then all of a sudden the drawing looks like infinitely better than just when it was 30 seconds ago when you hated it, just because you added in the fur and all like the fuzzy parts and everything like that. But with the ears especially, all of the fur sticks straight out, so you can kind of have a little bit more fun when you're etching in all of the fur on ears, because it's not so like texture, it's not so serious. All you really have to do is kind of fly out all of that fuzzy hair, and it makes it a lot more fun. So this coyote is getting close to done. Again, we're not doing anything super detailed today. I'm just doing like a quick flash so we can keep this a little bit cartoony, which honestly like makes it a lot more fun. Recently I've been doing a bunch of like trying to be very accurate in all the drawings, and I think having a couple of quick ones also it like trains your brain in a different way than trying to be hyper realistic or very realistic. Like the power of being able to draw cartoony and like emotive everything helps a lot too. It helps being able to draw realism too, because you sort of get in that mode of like, if I can draw this cartoon, all I have to do is blow out some of these ideas, and then I have like a very realistic, and vice versa. Like if I'm drawing cartoons all the time, I sort of get used to a bunch of the ideas and a bunch of the sizes and like eye distance between them and like everything working in conjunction together. And then all you have to do is just draw with a ton of detail, like that same sort of setup that you would with a cartoon. And then all of a sudden you have like a very realistic drawing, and all you've been doing is cartooning for, months or however long. But we're just going to add in textured fur everywhere, just to make this guy look a little bit grizzled, a little bit worn, living in the desert or the woods, wherever he wants to. And we're getting pretty close, and we'll probably start just another like 15-minute coyote. But for now, like, as you can tell, now that I'm adding detail, the drawing is finally starting to look like realistic and fun and cool and everything like that. Whereas when we started, it was just a big circle, a big oval, a big snout for him, and like nothing else. And it's now that we're doing all of the detail and all of the fur, it's hiding all those mistakes. It's hiding all of the sort of perceptions that we had about the drawing, and we're just getting to all the fun parts, which is sick. And like, this is the most fun part about drawing animals, is getting to this fur / final stage. Just because like the drawing completely changes. It goes from just whatever you're setting up, or all of that structure and all those blueprinting lines, to an actual like living, breathing creature, which is like, that's the fun part. Like, that is why we draw, so we can make stuff that looks cool, and people see it and they think, whoa, like how did you get that texture? How did you get all those lines on that drawing? And it's like, it's all just set up. There's nothing too crazy about drawing. It's all just set up and practice and figuring stuff out very slowly. And we're just going to add some texture on top of his head too. A good way to add texture, like go about texture, is if you just change up some of the directions of the lines. It usually just like, it'll read to whoever's looking at your piece as texture, because it's like different, and it combines and it like clashes with each other, and it creates sort of that scraggly everything. And it's like a very simple, quick way to get a bunch of different strokes into your drawing, and also a bunch of different textures and temperatures and shades and everything. And it just, it makes the depth of a drawing a lot faster, or a lot better. But like as you can see, for the first round of detail, we're just like we're putting in all of that textured fur, and then we can sort of smooth it out after as we go. Um, so some of these, we'll do the same sort of texture, nothing crazy. And then we'll go back into another really fun part is making sure all of your darkest darks and lightest lights pop through. So to do that, you always want to start with the darkest spots on a drawing and then work your way back through all of the lighter spots. So like think of it as you're unlocking color. So the darkest spots on this drawing are going to be the pupils, the lines around the eyes, the mouth line, and then the nostrils and the nose. So it's like all I have to do is go back to all of those drawings or all of those pieces and darken them up, and then it like unlocks the next layer of darks that I can distribute through the whole drawing. So the dogs' noses are usually pretty much shields, just like little tiny shield pieces with nostrils in the middle. And then they have that sort of top edge to them because they are 3D and they stick out from the muzzle. So we're just going to add in that. And that top edge, depending on where the light source is, the top edge is usually lighter, so we can make sure we don't have that spot darker than this front plate of the nose. And that's another thing, like understanding exactly where the darkest darks are helps you sort of set up all of those highlights and everything to make things look a lot more realistic. So we're just gonna put in 2 nostrils there. I'm gonna darken up this bottom line, and I'm also gonna darken up this chin that he's got poking through. And then we can keep that top edge of the nose pretty light, but we'll add a little indication that it's there, right? And then we're gonna move back over to the eyes. Coyotes and wolves have like almost eyeliner on them. It's really interesting. Same with what was I drawing before? Like bobcats and deer. Like they all have like almost dark eyeliner on, which is really interesting, and I never really noticed until I started drawing them, but it is like this crazy like difference. Lord Luffy, what's up, brother? We're drawing coyotes today. Just hanging. Nothing much. I've just been talking about all of like the little tips and tricks I've been learning with drawing and setting things up as like simple shapes first, and then moving forward with harder detail as you go. But this drawing's been pretty sweet. We're just drawing like a couple of quick coyotes, and then we're gonna move on. I don't have a ton of time to stream today, but we can play. So like already you can see, like with all of the super dark lines that I put in. Damn. The dark lines that I put in, it sets us up for success in getting all of the lighter lines and all of the darker lines that we need everywhere else. So like now that I know that I can go this dark, I can come back in and I can start adding shadows and shading and everything like that into a bunch of these spots, which is sweet. We're gonna add just like a little semblance of an ear canal in there. You still around, Lord Luffy? What are you up to? You draw a lot? We'll add a little bit of an ear canal there too, and add some texture on top. And then we know that this top fur, this fluffy fur, covers up and casts shadow on sort of the inner ear, so we can add in a little bit of shadow there. Same on this side. Yes, sick. What do you draw? And then we're gonna do anime art. Oh, sweet. What have you been watching recently? Besides One Piece, I'm guessing. We're gonna throw in a dark outline on this guy just to sort of finalize and then make it look neat and nice, and like we tried on a bunch of these parts. And then with that, I've got to go run a quick errand, but then I'll be back. I'll add in a little lines for the ears. And then we'll give a little bit more explanation or a little bit more texture at the base of the ears. Then you know that they are 3D and they're sticking out from the head. You got me. Oh, Reincarnated as a Slime is such a good one. That one, I can't remember when I watched the first couple seasons of that, but that one blew me away. That was really fun. And then we're gonna add a little bit of texture for the eyebrows and even like a little indication that the eyebrows start right there. Same with this side. And with that, we'll darken up these cheeks a little bit too. Make this guy mew a little bit more. We'll even draw a little bit of an indication that the muzzle goes that way. But like, look at that. From just nothing and following barely any sort of structure, we already got to a pretty solid cartoony wolf. But with that, I gotta go do a quick errand and I'll be back on in a second. See ya. Okay, Lord Luffy. I'll be back in a couple minutes, don't worry. Actually, I might even... No, I'll keep it up. Who cares? Alright, I'll see ya. Never mind, I'm stopping it. I'll be back on.